this on my phone, so I apologize for like the wobbliness. And I'm on a little vacation here in California.
Oh, very nice. We're in South Carolina and happy that I think it was just like a pollen monsoon for 2 weeks. So I think we're on the other side of that. Happy to be towards more summertime weather for sure. So much to cover with you today. I know we have a limited time. We're going to jump right into it. Obviously, people best know you as the founder and one of the voices of Linkin Park. Do you have moments where it all feels surreal, like as you look back?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like, I think that the big moment when that happened was probably after Hybrid Theory, Hybrid Theory and towards the end of Meteora, like that Meteora second album phase. And since then it's just been about, I think, like just rolling with things and kind of riding the wave. I find that these days, like I'm really, I look for things, for ways to like engage with, almost like it sounds silly to say like give back to your community, because that's such a like a corny phrase, but I'll give you an example. To be more specific, like I've been, since quarantine, I've been on streaming on Twitch. I've been streaming music, and it's not like live shows and stuff like that. My thing has been that I'll make a new thing from scratch every day. So last year I was making almost all instrumentals, and then this year I started taking finding fans and like brand new musicians on social media and producing, like getting in touch with them, asking if I can produce their song, and then producing their song live on Twitch from scratch, which from just basically a vocal and some chords, and then handing them back a fully mixed, mastered song and stems that they can like release on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, whatever.
Wait a minute. So I love the podcast Broken Record with Rick Rubin and Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah,
And I
so good. Yeah.
listened to your episode on that. And
Yeah.
I was like, what an incredible opportunity for artists, because we have this discussion, like there's less of a middleman, right? With the
Right.
way people are able to create, they have access to better tools, how to disperse it. But also that means there's more opportunity. It levels the playing field a bunch too. So how do you decide? I'm sure a lot of people are reaching out to you. How do you decide which tracks or which artists you're going to pick up?
It's a gut thing. I mean, it's always, for anything as an artist or a creator, it's always like you just go with your gut. I've heard, like, some days I'll pick somebody just because I feel like we need, like, something about what they do is exciting to me, and I feel like I haven't produced a song like that before. There's a
Yeah.
ton of variety in the stuff that I'm choosing. So far this year, I've done 22 songs,
Wow.
and they've ranged from like kind of danceable R&B to EDM to hardcore, like boom bap hip hop, to, I mean, there was even a guy, I produced a song by this guy, Dusty. Oh God, what was his song? It's called Space Boots and Jet Fuel. And his vibe is that he's a space cowboy, and
Okay.
it's like indie rock bluegrass with a space theme. It's so wild. It's so, actually reminds me a little bit of MGMT or like Flaming Lips.
Yeah.
Um, and I did that. Like, I feel like I did that back to back in the same couple of weeks as like a really soulful, like Adele style track, and like a British hip hop artist.
When you're going into to produce different things like that, how do you like almost I'm a fan of Shangri-La and the whole Rick Rubin kind of hippie
Mm.
vibe, grounding and all of that. And I know like his one studio, he does, it's like all white, and then artists can go in and do whatever they want to it. And then when they go out, they clear it out, it gets all painted white again. Do you do that like mentally almost when you're trying to go from one different genre to the other? Like, how do you access different creative points for each genre?
Well, I mean, having worked on multiple records with Rick, I feel like Rick was one of the people to me that, in my experience and my like trajectory, I didn't even really realize I was a producer until Rick told me I was. Like I'd always assumed that I was just like the primary like writer in the band, because all the
Okay.
most of the demos came from me. In fact, at one point we did on Minutes of Midnight, on the first record we did with Rick. Up until that point, Brad and I had made all the demos. Like we would make all the demos and we bring them to the band. The band would choose which ones they really loved, and they would play the parts that we wrote for them, and then we'd improvise on stuff as a group and add stuff, together. With Rick, the first record we did with him, we did 150 demos. All of the guys wrote demos. So this is the first time that everybody wrote demos. And at the end of the day, the band themselves chose 11 out of the 12 songs were mine. And so it kind of went back and forth between this, like, I want to try and write and whatever, and then experimenting with it and experiencing it, and then coming back to like, but we like Mike's stuff. So
Yeah.
that was I feel like that was a big vote of confidence for me. And Rick said at that point, he's like, well, you are like the in-band producer. And I was like, oh, I am. And then he ended up giving me a production credit on that record and on all the records we worked with after that. With that said, Linkin Park sounds like we jump from sound to sound a lot between albums, and it was like, even within that context, like I was doing a lot of different styles of songs that didn't even make the record. Like I've always been into so many different types of music, and so it's kind of hard for me to stay nailed down to one. So doing tons of different styles on my Twitch stream. I put out like 3 instrumental compilation albums last year off a Twitch stream. Like I just love variety.
Yeah. I want to go back. You brought up hybrid theory, and it was last year, right? 20 years of hybrid theory.
Yeah.
Now that means I also run a classic rock station, and so I get excited because we're like 5 years from going to classic rock with hybrid theory. Right?
That's funny.
So
yeah, I hear some of the stuff on the classic rock station, and it's like, growing up thinking that classic rock was like Zeppelin and the Beatles, then all of a sudden hearing like Nirvana on it, and I'm like, okay, sure. Like it's always weird for people as they get older. Like it's gonna be really funny when like they're like, next up on classic rock, like Black Bear and Machine Gun Kelly. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's gonna be really funny.
Yeah. Do you think it'll be like, for the transition from, talking about like MGK and Black Bear, there's a huge conversation currently, specifically on the radio side of things, like what is alternative music, right? Because as the people, the artists progress, as the generations progress, obviously the sound changes. So what is alternative music to you?
Well, I mean, without being too much of it's funny because I don't care about genre very much. Like we talk about it just as it's a functional thing.
Yeah.
So, it's like if I'm producing a song on my channel or elsewhere, and I say I want an alternative guitar, that could mean 1,000 things, right? Like it could be like a flangey, twangy Lana Del Rey alternative guitar. It could be a loud and obnoxious Linkin Park guitar. Like it could be, there's so many different things you could do, and it's the genre doesn't really have, like, just like most genres, like all we're trying to do with these words, all anybody's trying to do with these words is like communicate what they're hearing. And truth be told, like the best way to communicate it is just to like do it and to listen to it. I think right now, like, I love what's happening in just to speak on like guitar. I love what's happening with artists like Post Malone and Kid Laroi, Ian Dior, 24K Golden. Like, there's a bunch of artists. There's a lot of artists. Actually, I just named all guys. What about like, there's artists like Ren for Short or K Flay or
huge K Flay fan.
So there's all these artists using live instrumentation and mixing it with other things.
Yeah.
Whether that's a trap beat, or like maybe they do a lot of synths, and then they do like live drums. Like there's a lot of, I think at this point people aren't approaching it to like be part of a genre, of course. Like now it feels great to me because they're really just trying to express themselves, and in the same way that we did 20 years ago, find like a nice way to create like a melting pot out of their favorite sounds.
Now, you've done some solo things in the past. Your first post Linkin Park project under your own name, Post Traumatic, and then Dropped Frames Volume 1, which I want to get into. Like, are we getting a Volume 2?
Oh no, there were already three. There were already three.
There's three. Okay.
I did instrumentals on Twitch. So to be clear, Post Traumatic was basically just the whole idea of Post Traumatic was to create put out an album and do a tour where I could go commune with the fans and be like, just get through that really like dark time with the fans. And after that, I took a little bit of a breather, and I'm glad I did it, but it was exhausting. It was like emotionally, it's a super hard thing to do. Like every show is like difficult. And then when quarantine started last year, I was, long story short, I got into streaming on Twitch because I wanted to have some kind of like regularity. I just wanted to have like weekdays and weekends. Like, okay, on weekends I'm off. On weekdays I stream. I'm going to do 10 a.m. to noon, and I make a new thing every day. And most times last year, that new thing was an instrumental track. Part of it was just like an educational process for fans, being able to, so it was like a few things going on at once. So one, just fun for me to do. Two, it was like social in a way that I think a lot of us needed. And three, it was educational for both me and them, that like I was constantly trying things that I had not done, but also they would challenge me to do certain sounds or do certain styles. And I'd be teaching, for those watching all the time, like I'd be teaching them how I do them.
Yeah.
So whether that's, again, like a 90s hip hop boom bap beat, or like John Bonham-ish live Zeppelin drums, like whatever the sound was, I was showing them how I made it. And I did 3 compilations of those instrumental tracks. I mean, I wrote like over 150 tracks, so I only put out 30 or 40 of them. So I've got a lot. There's a bunch more that I just kind of haven't done anything with. And then this finally at the beginning of this year, I started doing a thing where I started producing fan songs. So now I'm doing a thing called Shinoda Produce Me, where fans will tag their demos with that hashtag, and we go scraping through social media and look at those and listen to those. And the ones that I like, I produce live on Twitch. And I've done 22 of them so far.
Is there any difference when you're doing your solo stuff, even though you were the producer for Linkin Park? Is there a difference in how you approach your creative sides when you're doing something solo under your own name as compared to when you're in a group?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to approach writing and recording a song, in almost infinite ways. Like, even if you tried to record if you recorded a really great drum track, live drum track, and then the next day you came back and tried to do it the exact same sound again, you wouldn't get it. Like, it's really hard to do. And it's like, there's just like, when people talk about the magic of recording, like that's what they mean. With that said, like I approach the Twitch recordings differently than I would approach writing a song for an album. And then I would approach a song for a solo album different than I would approach a song for a Linkin Park album, or different from a song that I'm writing with or for somebody else.
Where do you think you're at creatively or musically, like in your journey now? Is there something over the last few years that you've, with happy endings out now, and is there
Yeah.
something that you're looking specifically for, or does it just kind of flow through you and you discover it as it happens?
Well, I am in a bit of like a research and development phase is what I always tell people. So it's like I'm not just trying to like make a song and put it out. Um, so I'd say Happy Endings is like an anomaly. And part of that is because so many of the people on my team and at the label were just such big fans of it that they were like, just we've got to put the song out. It's so good. And it's like sums up like the song Happy Endings is really a song that is so 2020. I mean, it's all about 2020. It's also like it was written via Zoom. Like it was like, and we were having a great time on the Zoom, but we were it's like complaining with a smile on your face kind of
Yeah.
thing. You know, like
Yeah.
that's kind of the vibe of the song. Um, and yeah, in the bigger picture, like I don't know if I'm headed towards doing an album because I feel like I've done enough albums that almost doesn't feel like the right kind of ambitious right now, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like I love ambitious projects, and albums are do take a lot of time and care, but also like there are so many opportunities to do something new and fun and surprising and something that people haven't really, I don't know, maybe that either that people haven't thought of or that I haven't thought of, and do it in a way that's just very specific to me. So we'll see what that means. It's not, I know that's kind of a non-answer, but um I am still like kind of investigating in a way like what's the best um way to kind of get my ideas across.
Do you think the way that people consume music, because it's changed so drastically, like you don't have to go out and buy a whole album now, do you think that would change how you release music? Like if you decide to release them just as singles instead, or EPs, a few songs at a time, that a lot of people are streaming music rather than compared to dropping a full album and all the like hoopla that goes along with it. Does that
Yeah,
change how you want to distribute
I
your
don't
music?
I that's kind of what I'm getting at is like everybody's so used to like single album,
Yeah.
like that format is fine, and yet that there's so many other things you could do. Like I look at it like there's there's movies and TV and gaming and platforms and live and not live and VR and AR and other technology. Like right now, um, I've been talking to a few people that like basically are building platforms and then also people that are building things for platforms. So that is to say, like, for example, there's Audius, which is like blockchain music. And they've in the last few months they've jumped from like 2.5 million users to 4 million.
Oh, wow.
And that's 4 million users is tiny compared to other platforms, but their growth is
That's
insane.
double.
The growth is insane,
Yeah.
and the idea that the way they're doing it is not, they don't intend for it to be competitive with like Apple and Spotify at this point. Like that's not the game they're playing. They're in a lot of this explosion of blockchain related stuff. The I think the emphasis is on the emphasis on new technology as it applies to artists of all kinds is that you have this really interesting direct relationship with fans where you can sell a thing, they can consume a thing, you can release something that's like gamified in a way. It's like makes it fun to consume it.
Mhm.
And it can be, if you want to, you can also like allow there to be what they call price discovery. which just means that like with music, you've always been like a song costs 99 cents, a song costs
Yeah.
this much, an album costs this much. There's always like regular across the whole board, everybody's thing costs the same. But you would never do that with clothes.
Yeah.
You would never do that with art, with paintings, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Absolutely.
different, you wouldn't treat the brand new artist, you wouldn't say the painting by the brand new artist who just got out of college is worth the same as a Damien Hirst. And yet a song by the brand new artist is worth the same as Beyonce. Like that's you just, the idea is, oh yeah, you're gonna buy more of them, and artists are gonna get a small percentage of that. It's a weird system if you think about it. It doesn't make total sense. Well, it makes great sense for certain parties. So that's the kind of stuff that, like, when I say that I'm thinking through some of like ways that I'm not looking to like make a platform that changes the world. I'm looking for like, what's a fun way for me to get involved in projects right now that feels appropriately cutting edge and creatively rewarding.